And so we can provide higher relevance information to each other, and we kind of help each other that way.
Hello and welcome to episode 9, season 2 of your Cyber Threat Intelligence podcast. Whether you're a seasoned CTI expert, a cybersecurity professional, or simply curious about the digital battlefield, our expert guests and host will break down complex topics into actionable insights. On this episode of season 2, our host Pedro Kertzman will chat with Liam Ryan, who is a cyber threat intelligence analyst with the Government of Alberta. Liam is a certified intrusion analyst by the GIAC and also has the GCTI certification from the same institution. He has authored research on the threat landscape facing the province of Alberta and spoken at government cybersecurity events such as Public Service Networks and Cyber Alberta Connect. His work supports Cyber Alberta's mission of strengthening cybersecurity across the province through intelligence-driven analysis, threat reporting, and stakeholder collaboration. Over to you, Pedro.
Liam, thank you so much for coming to the show. I really appreciate you sharing your knowledge with us today.
I appreciate Pedro. I'm glad to be here. Like I had said to you, kind of previously in our chats, any chance to get it on the CTI soapbox and talk anything CTI, I enjoy.
Awesome. So I did some digging before coming here today, and apparently the Government of Alberta through Cyber Alberta is one of the most active public-funded cybersecurity communities in North America. So I thought it would be interesting just to bring context to everybody that is not like super familiar with the Cyber Alberta community. So there are like a lot of online meetings and all that for the local community in Alberta. And what about your role in the Government of Alberta and the Cyber Alberta community? Would you mind bringing a little bit about that as well, please?
Yeah, sure thing. So I didn't know that stat, but that sounds about right. Cyber Alberta is very active in, Alberta specifically. Mm-hmm. My role in that is I'm a cyber threat intelligence analyst for the Government of Alberta and Cyber Alberta. So I kind of ride the line between the internal cybersecurity division and the Cyber Alberta community of interest, which consists of members of the Alberta public, both private and public organizations. We use the telemetry we have from the GOA to provide ideally highly proximal information on threats to Cyber Alberta members, and then we'll also take information from Cyber Alberta and use that to look in our environment. So it's kind of mutually beneficial.
And you were with the team since the beginning, right? How was the experience to help build that CTI practice since the beginning? Any interesting points, especially when it comes to this, let's say, dual, very particular role that within the government, having the internal, quote unquote, customers, but also the extended external customers that you were mentioning?
Yeah, it's an interesting point you bring up. Regarding building the team, I was there relatively from the start. My understanding is that the CTI, Cyber Alberta function, was there about 6 months or so before I started, 6 months to a year. Mm-hmm. And so when I joined, they were still very new. CTI had kind of been added as an ancillary function to another team, mm-hmm. Which makes CTI as an ancillary function is kind of tricky. It's its own specialty. Mm-hmm. So there was kind of difficulty navigating that initially. The other problem with, me trying to help mature and build the CTI program, which is really why I joined, is I like building things, and the idea of building a CTI program was really cool, mm-hmm. is that I didn't come in with CTI experience. I didn't actually have a lot of CTI background. So it was a lot of fumbling around, trying to figure things out, and so on. And then eventually, actually, I took the GCTI course, or SANS 4578.
Yeah.
And John Doyle was
way.
actually my instructor on that, who I know you've had on the podcast previously. He was really cool. He was really helpful. He sent me a bunch of extra material, so to kind of get myself up to speed quicker so I could be effective in building a CTI program, I read everything he sent me, just read everything I could get my hands on, really. And then just started kind of doing the work, ensuring we're aligned with the goals of the organization. So it always starts with governance. Is there executive support for a CTI team? And then what does that look like? What's your actual mandate? What does the organization need from you? Do you have a collection-only mandate? Do you have a generation mandate, or some combination? It turns out we had some combination, which means we needed to improve our intrusion analysis capabilities, and we had to do a bunch of stuff to get our foundation set up. The other piece to the question there you had was kind of that dynamic of, we're in the cybersecurity division for the Government of Alberta, and we're also helping the public, and kind of how that works there.
Yep.
As I had mentioned earlier, it's mutually beneficial. And it's probably our strongest feat as well. Thinking about things that increase, the level of threat to you. Proximity is one of those indicators you look for. So organizations in Alberta are proximate to the Government of Alberta, and the Government of Alberta is proximate to them. And so the threats that we're kind of discovering tend to be higher relevance to each other. And so we can provide higher relevance information to each other, and we kind of help each other that way. Now, it gets tricky with something like Cyber Alberta as well, because one of the things in the intelligence lifecycle is that feedback mechanism. It could be difficult to get feedback from external parties who don't necessarily have to provide it, right? Like you do internally.
Yep.
So there's a lot of guessing and testing as to whether or not we're providing, highly relevant material to them. So get around that. We'll do things like surveys, but again, they're proximate. And that's something we're always trying to improve, is the relevance of the material we provide to both internal partners and then just partners in the province.
Got it. So one of the, I would say, challenges within bigger government bodies providing information downstream to smaller, you name it, organizations and companies, so on and so forth. A lot of the methodologies or systems we have to feed threat intelligence, they're like one-way streams. When I think about taxi servers, feeds, and things like that, or you name it, emails, reports, and stuff like that. It's like one-way communication, right? Have you had any experience in like trying to tackle this challenge in any way to become more a collaborative type of bi-directional approach with external, let's say, members of the community? Any lessons learned or trials around that?
It's tricky. So we want to offer as much help as possible to these organizations. But when you take a team of, when I started, it was me and one other analyst, and now we're up to 4 analysts. But even that, you take that and you expand that to over 1,200 members. There's only so much you can do. But we do try to do what we can. We did implement a report and incident functionality similar to what the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity had developed. And so in the past, we've had people from the community of interest report like a ransomware incident, for example. And so we've gotten on calls with them and directly supported them or directed them to people who could help them better. But that's the primary function we're using right now, is basically email and then this report and incident button. We are spinning up a MISP instance and other tools like that to kind of facilitate, better, more CTI sharing. But back to the point about, this kind of downstream sharing with the public. Not everyone in the public has the same capabilities, is going to have a MISP instance.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to keep it dynamic. You want those more advanced capabilities as well, but you got to be able to support, your ma and pa shops, which we have some of in the COI.
Yeah.
You'll have cybersecurity teams that are just one guy, for example.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, there's a balance in it. Depends on who your target audience is, I guess. In our case, it's a bit of everyone.
And expanding a little bit more on the process of maturing the CTI program?
Yeah, sure thing. Started with again, like I mentioned, governance, making sure that there was a requirement for a CTI function and what that looked like. And then it was a matter of just deeper analysis and developing a strategy for doing that. So the strategy we employed consisted of 3 phases, basically taking us back to our building blocks. So it's more or less sequential and the way you want to execute it. The first phase is all about putting the cart back before the horse, or the horse back before the cart. I always get that mixed up. But, making sure we have a solid foundation before we do anything else. So that's alignment to the organization, again, the governance piece, intelligence requirements, seeing if you have the capabilities required. Do you have the training required as well? Is your team capable of delivering on what you need to deliver on? Second phase was around, once you have that, it's targeted investment. So we were doing pretty well for ourselves, kind of operating in a bit of an ad hoc state where I think a lot of CT analysts enjoy using open source tools and kind of using whatever they can get their hands on to get the job done.
Yeah.
That was doing all right, and we were getting by with that, but it's not sustainable long term. So once you have your foundation, you've demonstrated there's value there. It was, getting a business plan to get the appropriate tools in place and the appropriate training for staff as well. And then the third phase, once you kind of have that going, it's automation. It's just improving how you're doing things, improving your process over time iteratively. This resulted in the development of a kind of project plan / strategy for maturing the team. There's 4 basic elements to that. So typical what and when. So what do you need and when do you need it by? But additionally included components on how to deliver those pieces, and how you're going to measure the success of those pieces you want to deliver on as well. So, for example, the how piece, these were typically larger, longer-term strategic items that would take a while to implement. And I'm sure a lot of people listening, especially if they're CTI analysts, can relate to the never-ending flood of things that come down the pipeline. And it makes it really hard to get into the flow state on a task and actually get it done, especially if it's larger. Long-term strategic items can take forever. So we decided hackathons were a good idea. We'd basically take an analyst and assign them to one of these tasks for a week straight, and they'd be effectively operationally removed from everything else. So it helped us make big dents in big items.
That's cool.
And then measurement as well. So you're trying to mature your CTI team. You want to be, you're investing a lot of time to do that in various tasks. You want to be able to measure that those are having the effect you think they're having. So developing effective KPIs and metrics for, not only measuring that we're functioning as we're supposed to as a CTI team, but like when we make an automation, for example, it actually improves our delivery times. And so some examples there, again, I got a lot of this from, again, shout out to John Doyle. Took 4, 5, 7, 8 from him.
Yeah, he's great.
But they talk about KPIs and metrics. And the ultimate measurement of a CTI team is their ability to meet their intelligence requirements. So we have metrics around that, how well we're satisfying those. We have KPIs and metrics around, of course, delivery times, which is pretty standard. How long does it take us to deliver on strategic, operational, and tactical items? Other measurements that are important were related to the maturity of the team, because we wanted to mature the team, obviously. So it's kind of a dual-pronged approach based on impact and maturity and capability. So one of the ones we implemented, which is pretty simple, is hours per analyst per year dedicated to training. If you want to mature a team, you got to be training your analysts. So we make sure that every analyst gets at least 40 hours a year. Another one that we're using is the Cyber Threat Intelligence Capability Maturity Model, which is just a good tool for auditing ourselves, ensuring that we're, progressing and using it for review across time. Have we stagnated anywhere? And then the other kind of KPI we want to focus on, again, we want to be impact and actionability focused. So we've started mapping the work we do to the impact it has in the organization. So as you know, intelligence is all about actionability. If you produce a report and it doesn't lead to an action, or it's not actionable, it doesn't really meet the definition of intelligence.
100%.
So trying to track that as well.
You mentioned something that really caught my attention. When was the moment you realized that OSINT was not just enough anymore for your CTI program, and then you had to invest on paid intel? Because I think a lot of people start their CTI program focused on OSINT feeds and platforms and tools and folks, because there is a lot of information out there that is free. It's good, so you can start testing things. But when was the flipping point that you decided we need more sophisticated things and all that? People might be start feeling that. So if you can share, when was your flipping point, so people can understand that moment that might be going through similar situation? If you can share that with us, so maybe people can relate to similar situations, that would be awesome as well, if you can share that with us.
I got to shout out John Doyle again, because again, I came into CTI with no background, and I took that course from him. And he really highlighted the importance of intrusion analysis. It's well highlighted in that, if you're reading open source intelligence, and let's say it's the report's describing a threat that's active in Canada, that's a proximate threat. But when you're looking at your own intrusion data, those are direct threats. Those are threats targeting you right now. That is the most relevant information to yourself. So previously we weren't fully exploiting that, and now we're heavily leveraging that. That's how we're generating novel, relevant intelligence. There's really a shift to a focus on that information specifically. And obviously, if you have a generation mandate, you're always flipping back and forth between collection and generation. But really, we try to focus on that intrusion analysis piece a lot. And that would probably be my recommendation for others as well. Is you have data and telemetry right now that's really valuable. Start collecting on it and analyzing it.
Liam, thank you so much for coming to the show. I really appreciate you sharing insights with the audience. I know, especially in the public sector, it's complicated to share sensitive information, but I think it's so important to share the experiences with a broad audience. So I really appreciate you coming here and sharing your experiences with the community. So thanks so much. Any final thoughts for the listeners?
A shout out to Cyber Alberta. So cyberalberta.ca is the website there. I know Rachel would be dismayed if I probably didn't give one of those. We have monthly community of interest meetings. We do a yearly in-person thing, kind of similar to B-Sides, where we have lots of presenters. So if you're an organization in Alberta, check out cyberalberta.ca. If you're experiencing an incident in Alberta, we have a report an incident button. We're happy to help in any way we can.
That's amazing, Liam. Thank you so much for so many insights. I really appreciate you coming to the show, and I hope I'll see you around. Thank you.
Thanks, Pedro.
And that's a wrap. Thanks for tuning in. If you found this episode valuable, don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a review. Got thoughts or questions? Connect with us on our LinkedIn group, Cyber Threat Intelligence Podcast. We'd love to hear from you. If you know anyone with CTI expertise that would like to be interviewed in the show, just let us know. Until next time, stay sharp and stay secure.